Hi everyone, Cleous GloWry Young here. So some of you are aware that I'm putting together a course now around mental depression, a state that I went through, and now the opportunity came up where I had to capitalize on this opportunity to put together this actual course, right? And the opportunity came from me seeing someone on social media talking about it from a standpoint where this is what she has done for other professionals. So reach out to her, um, had a meeting with her, and she gave me the ins and outs of it, and it came to the point where I hired her. So now we're working together. We're in the introductory state, and she's coaching me now how to put together the course itself. And one of the things that she's letting me know is like, hey, Cleous, you got to share the story of what is it that you went through, how you were able to pull yourself out of it. So if you're going to teach it to others now, they have to see it from an exemplary standpoint from where you're coming from and how you were able to pull yourself out of it. So an interesting part that came up now was like, oh, but I went through it, but there was a part of it that I didn't know how to define what I was going through. Literally, the last video that I just posted, I was talking about it. Like I didn't know how to define it. Like I identified the things that I was going through, but I didn't know how to define that as depression. I think it was like a year later that I really got that revelation that you went through a depressive state. But now that I'm putting together the course, I started to look at something very intricate, right? What if we were taught the wrong concept around depression? What if it wasn't a bad thing? Like literally, and I had to sit down and ponder on this all morning today, right? And I'm looking at it that I wasn't able to identify it, define it when I was actually going through it, even though I'm coming from a background where I have a degree in psychology and we studied it while we were in college, right? Or even coming from a therapeutic background where I played the role of a therapist for elementary student at one point. I was literally going through it and didn't know how to define it. So now that I'm putting together the course, it's an intricate part of not understanding certain things on a level, right, that I was able to define it. But now I have been placed in the position now to define it so I could help others to get through it. I really had to start dissecting it. And when I started to dissect it, I realized that it's not a bad thing as we were taught, right? Literally. So let me clarify this. So I had to look at the concept of what is called the swastika sign, right? If you know anything about the swastika sign right now, you will take it as it is something bad. And that's because of how we were taught the concept of the swastika sign, especially through Hitler, right? But if you do your due diligence and go and research the history of the swastika sign, then you will see that it was never something that was a bad omen. It was something that was developed to do something positive. Someone took it and put a negative or a bad spin on it. So today you may look at it as something negative. What if this is the same thing that was done to depression? Because what happened, here's what I had to do, right? I had to look at the concept of what we're going through right now as another way of really understanding it. So if you're going outside now, there's a heat wave that's going on around the country or even the world. And if you go outside, what's going to happen? You may see water running down your face, right? What is that called? That's called sweat. Why is water running down your face? Because you were exposed to an extreme heat. Is this a good or bad thing? It's neither. It's just based on what you were exposed to, and then the body goes through a process where it perspires, right? We call it sweat. Back up now. Let's go to depression. Whenever you're exposed to certain things, the body goes through a process of shutting down certain things, right? When the body is shutting down certain things, is this a good thing or is it a bad thing? It's neither. It's the body's way of protecting itself from certain things, so it shuts down certain things, and this is why some people that goes into the mode of depression, right, they will start to act on a low vibration. Things that they're going to be doing is not at the state of how it was before. Why? Because the body starts to shut down certain things, and the reason for that is because you were exposed to certain things. Is this a bad thing? No. It's a process that the body goes through. If you're exposed to certain things that are going to be overwhelming, certain things that are sudden, right? What the body does, it starts to shut down. Is there something wrong with that? No. That means your body is likely working the way it was designed to work. And this is something that I literally had to now break down into the course. So I'm going through the step where I'm breaking it down, and I'm showing you how this is what happens when we label it, right, as depressive or the depression state of our life, right? This is what the body is doing. It's shutting down. It's causing things not to flow at a certain rate that it's normally flowing, right? Is that a bad thing? No, it's not. It's the process that really makes you really understand, like, yeah, the body is working. But if someone perceive it as something bad and taught you that way, so when you get into that state, now what's going to happen to you, right? All these so-called bad things are going to happen to you. Why? Because that's how you perceive it. Like literally for me, I didn't know how to define it when I was going through it, and that was a key factor in allowing me to extract myself out of it at an extreme rate of where it may not have impacted me, right, the way it may have impacted others, like a severe depression. I didn't go through that state. But for me, it's like literally, if we start to define it from a different angle, what's going to happen, the outcome is totally going to be different. So is depression a bad thing? No, it's not. Unless you perceive it that way, then that's what your mind is going to produce. For me, I'm breaking it down into this course, and I'm sharing with those who are going to use the course now. I'm sharing the concept of the things that your body goes through and what's really happening, right? And when you learn what's happening, then you can now rectify it, because you know, all right, this is not happening in the body. What is it that I need to place around me now to bring back the body into this state? It's logic. It's the principle of the body. You expose it to certain things, and this is what it do, right? Nothing good or bad. It's just the process that it goes through. So if you're out there, right, and you're going through this depressive state and you have the notion that this is something bad, then this is why you're actually accumulating all these bad results in your life. I could tell you this, and I could attest to it. The best life that I've ever lived on this earth while I'm here, right, is within the last 4 years. And that's after my after my depressive state, because I started to learn about the process of what I went through, which in the last video I said, what doesn't kill you make you stronger. And it's all about how you perceive certain things and what is it that you were taught about these things. You can look at the swastika sign as something negative, and that's all you're going to perceive it as. or you can do your due diligence of doing the research and seeing that this was never something that was negative. And it's the same concept of depression. It's the process that the body goes through when it's exposed to certain things that are overwhelming or certain things that are sudden, right? Same thing when you go out into the sun, right? And you're exposed to the extreme heat, then the body starts to perspire and sweat or water comes out, right? Is that a bad thing? No, it's not. It's the process of what the body was designed for. Here's the bad part. If you go out in the sun, right, it's extreme heat, and guess what? You're not sweating. That's the bad part. Same thing. If you're exposed to things that are overwhelming or things that are sudden and shocking, and you don't go into what is called the depressive state, all right, then something is wrong with you. The thing is, it's not a bad thing. It's just what the body was designed to do. You just have to learn what is it that you need to put back into place in your body so you can come out of that state, right? And I call it a state. And there's a reason for that. I also mentioned that in the course too. So once again, it's not a bad thing. It's just that we were taught these concepts, and when we perceive them as how we were taught, then now we see the destructive state. If you understand this process in which the body goes through, then you know what to put in now for you to get out of that state and start to thrive into something else. Once again, it's not a bad thing. It's just how we were taught. All right? God bless.